We're back at the Salisbury House on Leela. A lovely February day in Winnipeg. You see, I use the word lovely again. You don't like it, do you?
I hate the word lovely. And that's not, speaking of that, I'm getting sick and tired, too, of these play-by-play guys and broadcasters saying, my goodness. That's what my grandmother used to say.
That's true.
My goodness.
And you're old. And you're old.
Yeah, she's around since the 1800s.
I'm the major, he's the misconduct.
But lovely's as bad as my good. Yeah. Lovely's worse.
You don't
a
like
lovely pass.
It's a lovely day.
Oh, it's a nice day. It's a beautiful day.
It's winter in Winnipeg. Snowy. This is Major Misconduct. I'm the Major, Scott Taylor. That's the Misconduct, Kurt Keelback.
Despite the company, actually.
And in part 2 of our Winnipeg segment today, we're going to talk about the Blue Bombers. I've been impressed with the fact that they've been signing coaches. They bring in Chip and Will yesterday. 2 new defensive coaches. This is a team that will really be coached up. It's a team that can get back to the Grey Cup just by coaching it up. But I think, like a lot of Winnipeg fans, we're a little bit concerned about Greg Carr goes to Edmonton. Brendan Labatt, the best offensive lineman, goes to Regina. Dan Ormacion, who was the guy who was supposed to replace Doug Brown in the middle on defense, he ends up going to Edmonton. And yet there have been no announcements on major player signings. Now, there will be those who will argue that the Winnipeg Blue Bombers did nothing last year and got to the Grey Cup after going 4-14. That after going 10-7-1, that maybe they can get back to the Grey Cup by not having to do anything in the offseason. The problem is, and it was Doug Brown who told me this, if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. And by losing Carr, Ormacion, and Brandon Labatt, they are not getting better. Do they need to sign somebody quickly?
Well, they need to sign somebody. I mean, you can't stand pat. Doug Brown is exactly right. You've got to keep putting new pieces in the puzzle. I think the Detroit Red Wings have proven that over the years. They always added somebody at the trade deadline to refer to a different sport. But as far as the CFL is concerned, yeah, they've got to do some things. Now, everyone's wondering why they haven't done it yet. I'd like to think maybe they've got a couple of things in their back pocket that they're preparing for, and they've got a couple of things planned, or maybe they feel that there's some people coming up that can fill those voids, because there are definite voids. Now, this team did go to the Grey Cup final last year, which is a step in the right direction, a huge step in the right direction, but they didn't win it, and there was no question they weren't near as good as the BC Lions. So they still had some work to do on what they had last year, and now they have deteriorated somewhat, and they've got a lot of quarterbacks, they've got a lot of coaches.
The BC Lions, you can argue, have become better. They've lost some players to free agency, but they've signed a bunch. You could say that they've become a better football team. The Edmonton Eskimos have become significantly better if you believe that Stephen Giles is going to make the season. But I still think, knowing Eric Tillman, that there's somebody else in the wings. There's going to be another quarterback there along with Stephen Giles. The Hamilton Tiger Cats have become significantly better. Getting Henry Burris at quarterback, getting Andy Fantuz to throw to. That's a team that's become much, much better. Toronto adds Jarius Jackson as a backup to Ricky Ray. We know Toronto's become a better team. Not so sure about Montreal until they made a bunch of signings last week, and a couple of guys out of that BC Lions team that beat the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Everybody around the Bombers has decided to add players to try to get better. Is this going to be a real litmus test for Joe Mack as a general manager, that he's got to go out and find some guys that can play?
Well, it absolutely is. And, there's so many things on the Bomber horizon that are cause for concern. You mentioned it as far as the players are concerned, and not adding while everyone else is. And then, of course, there's a concern over where the heck are they going to play in July? Where are they going to play in August? A lot on the road? Eventually, they're going to have to come home. But where is home? Is the new facility going to be ready? Or are they going to go back to the old facility, which apparently they've already said they won't do?
Yeah, that's a very interesting comment that the new CEO made, suggesting to the newspapers that they will not play any games at the old facility. If they're not going to play at Old Canadian Stadium, old Winnipeg Stadium, then the question is, what's going to happen? Because they're not even certain now that they're going to play July 26th for their scheduled season opener. The CFL allowed them to play their first 4 games on the road, which could put you behind the 8 ball. Playing on the road is not easy to do in the Canadian Football League. It just wouldn't be a good thing to quickly fall behind 0-4. But now we hear word that maybe it won't be ready by July 26th, and if it's not ready by July 26th, does Garth Butchko have to step back from that comment he made that we won't play in the old stadium and play there? Because the only other place I can think him playing is at Old X.
Yeah, unless they still have that old Canada Packers stadium that they used to have many
no, they don't.
Which they don't do. But they're going to have to come up with a venue to play in, obviously. And I don't. Here's another thing. Why are things always misscheduled. We have had the greatest winter we have ever had, and yet why is it not ready? Why were there no guarantees? I don't know. Has there been a work stoppage?
Well, I think no, there hasn't been at all, and I think they've known since September. I mean, you can't have predicted a winter as good as this. There have been no long-term minus 30 days. We've had 3, 4, 5 days in a row, maybe once or twice.
Yeah.
But there's been no long-term.
You got to figure that they were planning this on a normal
40.
winter, and they didn't get a normal winter. They got a way better than a normal winter for any construction, and they're late on it.
It's a little bit scary. They're already talking to some season ticket holders about moving back to the old stadium. That has been brought up with season ticket holders this week. So maybe.
How does that affect the people who bought season tickets basically because they want to see the new facility?
Don't even get me started on that. Because the tickets are much more expensive in the new building as well.
Yeah.
It's a whole different deal. For the preseason game, just open it up for rush seating. Preseason game, that's what I do. I just wouldn't give away as many tickets they've given away in the past. Let anybody sit where they want to sit as long as they're season ticket holders.
Scott Taylor for CEO?
CEO, yeah, I'd be good at that. When we come back, we're going to look at the trade deadline coming up. We're going to talk about the Detroit Red Wings and their brilliant season. We're going to talk about some football and some baseball and all sorts of things that don't necessarily have to do with Winnipeg. You're watching Major Misconduct. I'm the coach, Scott Taylor. That's Kurt Keelback, the voice of everything, and we're live from the Sal's on Leela in Winnipeg.